people throughout the community. So that's really what the whole point of it is, and
Okay.
then use it as a way to also, promote a cause that's good to you, or that means something to you.
Absolutely.
And we did the one with Bob, so we gave back to the radio station in the first time. So this one obviously we'll give to the Special Olympics, which is really, really cool. That's good stuff, man. So basically, like, what started it all for you? Like, why did you decide to become a mayor, run for mayor?
Well, I've been a resident here since the mid '80s.
Okay.
And my kids were going to school here and everything. And I was a late entry into the fire service.
Okay.
I started at Streetsboro as a volunteer, and then I got a full-time job in Twinsburg in 1994.
Okay.
And I was 37 years old.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of old to start being a fireman. Well, I progressed through the ranks there and became a captain, but I was starting to get older, and being a firefighter, unless you're riding around in a car all day, it's a young man's sport.
Yeah.
And I had been somewhat involved in the city, through being in the fire service. I would go to council meetings and stuff like that, and I just I looked around and I saw what I saw, and I just felt that there was a better way.
Yep.
And it piqued my interest, and I says, you know what? I says, I could do this, and I had some thoughts and ideas of what I wanted to do, and I ran the first time as a write-in.
Okay.
And there was 2 balloted candidates, and as a write-in, I came in second place by only a few hundred votes.
Yeah.
And that was quite an accomplishment. I says, well, apparently there's something out there. Well, unfortunately, the gentleman that beat me got ran out of town on the rails, and we had they appointed the then president of council, which was Art Scott, but he had to run again. And then we had there was no primary, so they had 7 of us running for mayor.
Okay.
And I finished second by only 7 votes.
Dang.
And when people tell you their vote don't count, their vote counts.
Absolutely.
So, but then I ran again after that was over, and that was the first time I won. And I remember walking in the office on the first day, and I was like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And it took a little while to get the lay of the land, but the one thing that I had constantly heard was that we have no sense of place. We have, no sense of community and stuff like that. And I wanted to start building that. And, I listened, being mayor here, you're not insulated.
Yeah.
I'm out and about
Right.
everywhere. I went to the AC/DC concert the other night and ran into about a half dozen people that
Sure.
I knew.
Yeah.
And it was funny because there was a lady when we went up to the restaurant kind of thing, and I noticed she was scoping me, and I'm like, okay, what did I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she goes, I know you. And I figured out who it was, and she says, you impressed my son so much a while ago. You gave him your autograph.
Oh, that's awesome.
And and it resonated with her. So we're not like even a state senator.
Sure.
Or anything like that. I eat, sleep, and breathe this.
Yeah.
My last thoughts before I go to bed are about the city, and my first thoughts in the morning are about the city.
That's awesome.
And I run into people all the time, and I just, after I started hiring people. I had people that I had inherited from the previous administration, and I didn't walk in the door and fire anybody.
Right.
I let them work their way out of a job.
Sure.
And I started bringing in people and started building a team. And as I built my team, we started getting more and more ideas.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I really wanted to do was to build that community and build that city. And you know, as you can see by the stuff that's gone on around us, I kind of look at it in kind of like a big circle where we have the older citizens, we have the middle-aged citizens, we have the kids, we have the teenagers, and what we are trying to do was to improve things for each one of those demographics,
Sure.
while not favoring any one, but making sure that everybody does. And you know, I think with the projects that we've done over the last few years, we my goal isn't accomplished yet.
Sure.
Okay, but I've made significant headway into it. I mean, you see with the City Hall project right now.
Yeah, that's
you know,
impressive.
If you look at where we've been in the previous city halls and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and you know, there was a big to do. Well, we should just refurb this school. It's got good bones. Well, I looked into it. I hired a consultant and says, well, what would it cost me to make this place livable?
Sure.
And it was outrageous. I mean, we had 50-year-old boilers, and you got to remember, a school that was built in the 50s, okay, they had 2 plugs. They had 2 outlets in the room.
Yeah.
Okay, so the entire electrical system would have had to been redone. The entire HVA system would have had to been redone. The roof needed there. It was just very. So we temporarily were in there, and then when we got, I knew that I did not want to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we were able to, as soon as we found this place, which has been very good for us. I mean, we've adapted to it and everything. And then we started about the planning process, but I knew we needed a fire station first.
Sure.
And we knew we had that property. There's a total of about 16 acres down there.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew, and we had worked with a developer to develop that entire piece of property. And when we looked at what, you know, we wanted in there, a rec center and stuff like that, it was just too much money.
Sure.
It was just too much money.
Understandable. Yeah.
So we had to back out of that, and then we went back, and by then, you know, I had formulated a great team here at City Hall. And you know, we started looking at what we were doing, and we said, well, we're going to develop the city center project. And we said, what do we want in there? And I said, well, I want it to be a place for a sense of community. So the idea of the Oval was born.
Sure.
And the Oval is bigger than a football field.
Mm-hmm.
It's open, and there's an area for people to gather, and there's a whole litany of projects that we can do there. And one of the things I'm very jealous of, you know, Kent and Ravenna and Hudson, because they have areas where people can gather.
Sure.
Okay. And you know, if you go to Kent, they've got something going on every weekend.
Yeah.
And I wanted, you know, it was a big goal to bring some of that to Streetsboro. Well, then we said, well, what else can we do? Well, we can bring some place for the kids in the center of town where everybody can reach. And that's when the splash park was, you know, we worked with an engineering firm that specializes in stuff like this to create this. And you know, naturally the first step was getting the fire department done, and thank God the people in Streetsboro, they voted for a 0.8 mil levy.
Yeah.
And thank God they did, because in this day and age, I could not have built the fire department.
Really?
It has more
The
than
cost.
doubled in cost.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, when we did the levy, we were able to put a new garage in at the service department, which they badly needed to keep stuff inside. So everything, Jack, my whole focus has been, number one, to build the infrastructure in the city, get us decent roads to work on. And
Sure.
we have been recipients of around $35 million in grant funding for the roads, for the 14 project, for the 43 project, for the traffic signal project, for the bridge on the bridge over Lake Rockwell. Mm-hmm. So and the great part of that is only about 12% of the total cost was borne by the city.
That's why.
So
that's great.
We've had 88% of our stuff being built with, I call it OPM, other people's money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, now we're to the point we needed to find, we needed to have a place for our senior residents. And that's when we decided to build a community center. And so now we have our Parks and Rec offices there, we have the community center there, and it has proven very popular, not only with our senior residents, but with people that want to have parties up to 100, 150 people. It's rented all the time. And, now we're not in the final stages, but we're in the next stage of finishing off the city center project with or moving closer to completion with the city center project, putting the city hall up now, and they're making great headway.
It's coming along really quickly.
Yeah,
it seems
it's going to be a great centerpiece, and then we have the last phase is going to be in the open area behind 14. But what I want to do, before I leave is I want to build an amphitheater.
Awesome.
And we have a spot for it. And we're probably going to start off small. If I wanted to build Blossom Music Center, we couldn't do it. But
sure.
At least we can build an area where we can at least have some bands out there, have some movies in the park, stuff like that. And that, to me, that will accomplish most of the goals that I have.
Yeah.
And Streetsboro, I hear we get compared. And I don't want to say compared, but be like Hudson or be like Aurora, and we're not like Hudson and we're not like Aurora.
Right.
Okay. The mix of demographic that we have in Streetsboro, we are a very solid middle class community.
Absolutely.
And
you've seen that probably change in your time since 2012, honestly.
Yes, we have with probably one of the biggest things that changed things was the Meadowview development.
Yeah.
541 homes, and I'm very proud of the fact that not one of those homes was a spec home. Every home that was sold in there was sold to a person and then built.
That's great.
And to me, that's kind of an indication, of the desirability of living here.
Absolutely.
And we have tried to build those things and those amenities to, you got to have to leave here somewhere. Some people wish that they didn't have to leave, that they could do everything here, but, I can't put Cleveland Brown Stadium in Streetsboro.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, you're going to have to go, to somewhere. But I want to be able, our park system is fantastic.
Absolutely.
And it keeps on getting better and better and better. We welcome numerous tournaments here in the city because our fields are good, accessibility is good, the hotels are good, people can find some stuff. With the advent of the Oval, we're going to be able to increase those things that we have. Are there more things that I would like to see? Yeah. I want a go-kart track. I want an indoor go-kart place.
That'd be awesome.
I'm trying to, I want to be able to bring something like that in. And one of the biggest things that I've seen, and you mentioned just a little bit ago, is the changing of the demographic. And I know that, there are people in Streetsboro that don't want Streetsboro to change. Well, our fate was sealed in the 50s when they put the turnpike in, and then in the 60s when they put 480 ended here. I went to the AC/DC concert. I was downtown in 25 minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I didn't hit a stoplight till I got off on East 14th.
Right.
And so we had to find a way to manage that. Okay. And I will be the first to tell you, there were some mistakes made way before I became mayor.
Sure.
That we have had to, we've had to overcome. Our planning, our zoning. Unfortunately, our zoning is somewhat horrendous. You have an industrial park that abuts a residential zoning area.
Yeah.
Who does that?
And that's just stuff that was set up way in years past. That
1970s they set up.
And they never probably saw the development that was coming to this point.
They would have never thought
right.
that we would be where we, and you can't see that vision, but what it has done is it's made it very difficult on us because I need to balance. If I have an area that's zoned industrial, you can put your business there, okay, as long as you follow the rules. But when they abut a residential area, industry and residents don't go together.
Sure.
Okay. We have noise complaints, we have stuff like that, and it has been something, and we've worked really hard with the people that have located there to keep the noise to a minimum, but they're allowed to do it.
Right.
And if you look at the whole, if you look at the whole southern portion of the city, Jack, it's all rural residential.
Yeah.
Okay. We have built pretty much all of the big developments that we're going to have.
Yeah.
Okay. We have what they call referendum zoning. Anytime we change the density in some place, it has to be voted on by the people.
Okay.
And it has to be initiated by the owner of the property. So, and if it doesn't pass in the precinct that area is located in, even if it would pass in the whole city, if it doesn't, it doesn't change. So that entire southern tier of the city. Okay, when you look at this big green area here,
Yep.
that's probably never going to change.
Sure.
Okay, it's never going to. And where you see this yellow, the yellow is where we have residential now, and where you see the purple is the industrial, and you see it completely surrounds
the whole
this
area.
stuff, and it makes it very difficult to us, and we have to balance. We have to balance the residents, and we have to balance the industrial. But what we are seeing now, and I'm very happy, if you drive down Ferguson Road,
Yeah.
We're getting some $1 million homes.
Yeah.
On
Big,
large lots.
absolutely.
On Ferguson.
Yeah.
And we have an individual, and I won't, but we have an individual that built about a $3.5 or $4 million home. You can't see it.
Yeah.
But he built it. And, people ask about what's going on over here on 303. We have another gentleman that's building a compound for his family.
Yeah.
So we're getting this large investment, and people complain about taxes all the time, and I complain about taxes too.
Sure.
But when you compare our actual tax versus communities around us, we are significantly lower, and it is the truth. You go up in the development in Stonegate, you can get twice the home for half the price.
Yeah.
As you can in Hudson.
Right.
And so subsequently,
across the
your
street.
tax right across the street. And are we perfect? No, we're not perfect, not by any stretch. But I tell you what, we strive for that.
Absolutely.
We really do. I mean, I really want to make this. We have a good blend of retail. There's not too many people that can support a Home Depot and a Lowe's.
Right.
And we support them very well. One of the big jokes when I was a fireman in Twinsburg is that you couldn't buy a pair of underwear in Twinsburg. You had to go outside the city.
Yeah.
And you can get pretty much what you want. Of course, there's always something. I mean, do I want a TJ Maxx? Yeah. Do I want a Home Goods? Yeah.
Sure.
Do I want them Kohl's? Yeah. Do I want a Marshalls? Yeah. But we haven't reached that. And one of the really things that I'm glad about is when you look at our, people complain about the chicken places and
Sure.
stuff like that, but we're right now. I mean, we've got a Chick-fil-A being built.
Yeah.
Okay, and when you look at the hierarchy of food places
Yeah.
and stuff like that, everybody gets a McDonald's.
Yep.
Everybody gets a Wendy's.
Sure.
Most everybody gets an Applebee's. I mean, you look at that, and then you get up into that other tier where you get the sit-downs. Would I love an Olive Garden? Yeah, but Olive Garden isn't expanding. We're going to get a Texas Roadhouse.
Yep.
And it is that, to me, it's that upper tier that reflects on what we have done in the community for them to look at it and say, you know what, I need to be there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great point to those. Those are two top tier brands in the restaurant industry, and when you look at them, you look at the places that they're at and the cities that they're in. They're not just every city. They're not everywhere.
It's Solon, it's Macedonia.
Absolutely.
It's those places, and to me, that's kind of like a pat on the back to the city.
Yeah,
that
for
we
sure.
have done those things, to attract it, and we are running out of business space.
Yep.
And we've had some inquiries from other people that I just can't accommodate. The only way they can do it is if they bought up land that people already existed on, and I would love to have them here.
Yeah.
And we'll see it. It'll come eventually. There's some people poking their nose around that have pretty deep pockets,
Sure.
and when they decide to be here, they'll make that step. And,
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel bad because there's probably still about probably 20 to 25% of the people that don't want us to grow anymore, and it's inevitable.
Yeah. I think with your vision from when you started to now, I mean, have you seen that as like, obviously everyone doesn't have to share that same vision as you,
Yeah.
and you did, but I mean, you can see it if you just drive the town. You can see the vision come to life of
When
what it's
people haven't
been.
been here a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I have to give a lot of credit. The staff that we have in place right now, they are excellent.
Yeah.
My planning department, my engineering department, my building department, even my assistant, my economic development director, they're excellent. And the thing is I have a great council now.
Yeah.
I didn't always have that. I went through a period for about 6 years to get anything done. It was like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
People were on council that I had defeated, and they weren't happy about it. And I mean, it was not uncommon for us to have council meetings that went till 11, 12 o'clock at night, because it was just always just infighting. And it was the old time Streetsboro politics.
Sure.
There used to be a thing here, Streetsboro politics, they'll eat their young.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want that. I want that and council, for the most part now, they share the vision. And I'm not saying that they're rubber stamping anything.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
We still have very healthy discussions, but it's not being mean to each other. It is accepting people's ideas and, okay, let's see how we make this work.
Yeah.
And they share a lot of the credit for being where we are now, because we were able, because we have the good people in the good places, and we've done the things that we need to. They see where we're going.
Right.
Yeah,
it's all part of your vision and what you do, and really, I mean, the mark of a good leader is a good team, in being able to surround yourself with people.
Oh, yeah.
I think that like you said, it shows throughout the city, and
oh yeah,
in the ability. Obviously, you can't do everything. As
try.
much as you want to. Yeah, exactly. I know, and I feel that same way. In my small scale, obviously, inside the restaurant, but. You have to be able to surround yourself with a good team, and I think that's just in life in general. As a leader, you have great people around you that really make you look good.
Keep them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's very difficult anymore to find police officers. It's a little difficult to find firemen.
Mm-hmm.
When I first wanted to be a fireman in May of 1985, I sat for a test with Akron Fire, and there was 3,500 people that took the test.
Crap.
They
Wow.
did it over 3 nights, and everybody wanted to be a fireman, and everybody wanted to be a cop. And in the way that our world is now, it's very difficult to find police officers.
Sure.
And you have to pay them to keep them. And other communities have said, well, I'm going to keep attracting police officers, so I'm going to raise my salaries this much more. And it's a competitive thing.
Yeah.
And it is very difficult. I'm very happy. We have over 9,500 people a day that commute into the city that earn their living here in the city.
Okay.
That's pretty darn good.
That's impressive. Yeah, that's really impressive.
And I mean, when you look at it in that context, my economic development director is the absolute top of the heap, and we're getting ready for expansion, and I can talk about it. Layer Zero, which is across the street,
Sure.
They're getting ready to put an addition on that's going to bring in another 400 jobs to the city.
That's outstanding.
And we have other things that are in the books, and if our, I'll put it the easy way, if our national political climate was a little more stable, we would be zooming anymore.
Yeah.
But businesses, and rightfully so, business and industry, they are concerned, and until we get a solid direction and a solid heading, they're some of them are sitting on money waiting to expand.
Right.
Okay, and I think that if we could just get some calmness,
Yeah.
and and it really it does, it hurts me because of the division between the D's and R's and the liberals and conservatives.
Sure.
And I've known people that have they've lost friendships over it, and we're all Americans.
Absolutely.
And I may be conservative, but I tell you what, I'm cognizant of the people around me, and I'm cognizant, and we try to my politics has never entered into me being the mayor.
Yeah. And that's impressive, honestly, because I mean it's what it's for. You know what I mean? It's what it's set up to be, I guess. But your actual politics and what you believe doesn't have to. It can shape you as a person, but it doesn't have to, offend someone else or change someone's opinion or.
Yeah, I mean, it was what was instilled in me my dad was a retired Marine. Okay. And I grew up on a belt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he pointed me in a direction, and he says, your reputation is what is going to guide you. And I have tried very hard to, I'm a very loyal person. I'm loyal to this city.
Yeah.
I like to believe that my ethics and morals are good. I'm not perfect. Okay.
No one is, right?
I'm not perfect, and there's stupid things that we did. I always say I'm glad I didn't have cameras when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I try. I'm transparent. We are the most transparent city for miles.
Yeah, and I see that every day. I mean, when we've dealt with projects with you guys, we can come in and have a conversation and say, we want to do this, and this is what you got to do, and this is how you make it happen. And there's no hidden agenda. No. It's just really trying to do what's best for the city, for the residents, for the businesses. Yep. I mean, that says a lot about your leadership and what you've been able to accomplish with all these people. And you talked about calmness, and I think you brought a calmness to the city.
I think so too.
In 2012, when you started, from then and the last 13 years, it's the city it's grown, and a lot of stuff has changed, and a lot of stuff has happened for the better. I would say most of it for the better. I can't think of it.
Well, you'll have people that will disagree, but I mean, I believe that we have made the city better. There are those that will disagree, and they're entitled to that. But I mean, we've made it, Jack, so that you can come here and thrive.
Yep.
We have every level of housing available to people. Mm-hmm. If you want to come in and if you want a starter home, 1,200 square foot ranch and stuff like that, right, then you can have it. If you end up 10, 15 years down the road and you have the ability to build $1 million home, we have it here.
Yeah.
And everything in between. And I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Our city, we don't exclude anybody.
Right.
There's no exclusion here. You can find, and unfortunately, if you need Section 8 housing, we have it.
Yeah.
Okay. But at the same time, when you look around and you see what we've done, anybody that wants to live somewhere can live here.
That's great.
And they can live in what they can afford.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of that.
You talked a minute ago about the people, like not everyone's always happy. How do you deal with that? Like as a mayor, and you go on the Streetsboro discussion page and you see, you're the mayor, so everything's your fault, or you never get any credit or anything. Sometimes you do, but most of the time it's Mayor Broska's got this road screwed up. How do you deal with that personally? First off, I guess as the mayor, how do you deal with that? And then as a person, when you have to go home at night and think about that stuff.
I wear my heart on my sleeve, Jack.
Sure.
I really do, and I do. Sometimes I take umbrage at what people say. Anybody that thinks that we have not tried to make our roads better, they got to screw loose.
Yeah.
Okay. We had a very, very, very bad winter.
Yeah.
And it really did a lot of damage. And you know, when you look at our budget, okay, we budget about $18 million a year to operate the city. 82% of that goes towards our operating fund. 18% of it goes to our capital improvement fund.
Okay.
Okay, and a capital improvement is something that lasts more than 5 years. So that 18% is what does our roads. Out of that, okay, we have whatever, whatever copay we have with the state and the feds to do our projects. I have to buy police cars out of there. I have to buy service department vehicles. I have to buy equipment for the service department. I have to pay, anything that we do, anything that we do that is going to last us has to come out of that. 82% of that goes just to keep people here.
Yeah.
Okay. Wages, salary, ships, and other compensation. And you've seen it. The healthcare has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
And healthcare has become a very significant portion of our budget, and it's something we have to be mindful of. And when you look at what we have to do with that 82%, our phones, paying electric,
Yep.
paying rent, paying these other things, there's not a lot. And when I see people complaining about the roads, believe me, I travel these roads every day.
Yeah.
When I go to lunch, I go home. Thank God I can go home and eat. I go home, and then for about the next hour and a half, I ride roads. I check on what the service department is doing. I mean, we put a significant amount of time. We have over 250 center lane miles of roads in this city. Okay. We have 14, 43, 303, which are state. They do the projects on their timeline. They will come in and they will tell me that, okay, like we're doing next spring, we got a huge plan next spring. We're gonna redo the intersection of 14 and 43, completely rebuild it. We're gonna pave from Twin Lakes up to Market Square Drive on 14. We're going to pave from Portage Point Drive all the way out to the turnpike. We're going to put a new intersection in where Circle K and 14 and 303 come together.
Yeah.
All in all, it's about a $6.5 million project.
Wow.
We're on the hook for $2.3 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and they tell us, and we have to come up with that. So that 18% that I have,
Yeah.
okay, I have to also be able to still do some subdivision streets because they get old. I mean, and it's not a juggling act. It's good planning that we do.
Yeah.
But we are at the whim, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We're at the whim of the state. When they want to do something and it's on state roads, I'm on the hook for 20% of the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, or 30%, depending on what it was. But this project in the spring, it is going to completely transform the center of town.
Yeah.
14 and 43 will be fantastic. It'll be all new. You'll be driving on fresh pavement all the way from Portage Point Drive all the way out to the turnpike. There's 7 lanes out there.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That
is a huge deal.
That's going to really change everything after
my
next
gosh,
year.
yeah.
How long does the project?
It's only going to be 9 months, believe it
really?
or not. Yeah.
Wow.
Because there are things that they can do concurrently. They'll be doing some of the paving and stuff like that while they're doing. It's going to be a mess.
Sure.
But everything, and that was part of the thing with the road projects, Jack, is that before I came here, the only major project that the city had for the roads was 43 from the square up to Market Square.
Yeah.
Okay. And unfortunately, there were some change orders that were done and they were never paid for. And when I walked into office, they said, you will not get any more federal or state things until you pay for that project.
Really?
So I got hit with $1 million bill. And
Right.
we negotiated with the state, and they said, okay, if you pay us X amount, we'll call it a day.
Okay.
And then we started applying for the different projects because I knew what we had to do. And our traffic signal system dated from 1994.
Yeah.
Okay, there was no rhyme or reason to it. It was all demand type stuff. When someone hit a sensor, it would go off.
Yeah.
Well, when we updated the system, we went to all LED lights. We went to new controllers. We went to video cameras for detection.
Yeah.
It was a huge project. And it's funny, the other night when I came home from the concert, I came in off of 480. I hit a green light all the way through the city.
Yeah.
All the way out to my house.
Yeah.
And that never happened before. And it's because of the timing and stuff like that. 14 and 43, they're always going to get priority because they're our busiest roads.
Right.
We changed the light up here at Frost and 43. And we had some different timing. And it's been wonderful because we're able, it's computer controlled, we're able to do that. But everything, then we had the 14 project. People wanted sidewalks. I want sidewalks.
Yeah.
Okay, so but they all hit within. We got awarded these things, and they all hit within 4 or 5 years of each other.
Yeah.
And that's a big chunk of change for us to come up with.
Right.
So it didn't put my subdivision paving aside, but I was not able to do everything we can. And we in our planning meeting, we said we need to take a breather. Okay,
Yep.
We need to get back into subs. We need to start paving some of our city streets to get them back up to where the standard that we want them.
Yeah.
So after the 43 project is done, and after spring of 2026, we don't have any major projects for a few years.
Okay.
And then we're going to get back into subdivisions and get the things, to make the city, to make the subdivision streets and the other streets, amenable.
Okay.
One of the big problems that we've run into here is that a lot of our outlying roads, Elliman, Ferguson, some of the other roads like that, when they decided to pave them, they never put a base under them. They put 3 inches of asphalt over them.
Okay.
And it only made their lifespan just a few years.
Right.
Well, right now, we just put the bid out. Elliman and Ferguson, we did a lot of repairs on both of them, and we're going to chip and seal those roads this year.
Okay.
But that chip and seal is going to remain as a base for us to finish what we need to do out there. And we found it even on a lot of our subdivision streets when we did Lido and Builds and those areas there. The contractor came in and he put a piece of asphalt on my desk, and he says, "That's your base. That's all you have. If I pave over this, you're only going to get a few years." So we had to go back. We had to put more money into it, and we actually used kind of like a rototiller to rototill concrete into the base to create a base, and the roads have been okay. But these are the things that we found. The city, we didn't have, prior to 2009 when we got the 2% income tax, we had no money. We were a largely rural community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 14 was 2 lanes through the center of town.
Yeah.
Okay. In 2009, the city voted to go to a 2% income tax, and it started us having the ability to have money. I mean, we didn't have a big budget back then because we didn't have a lot of business and industry.
Right.
But now that we've got 9,500 people a day coming in here, it gives us the ability to look and to plan, and we do a lot of planning.
Yeah.
We see, I mean, at 11 o'clock, I've got a meeting with my staff over our capital improvement projects, for the next 5 years. We plan this stuff out based on what we bring in.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. It is fun. I absolutely love what I do. Okay. I eat, sleep, and breathe the city, and people can say what they want about me, but my heart has always been to try and make the city the best it can be. I know it doesn't resonate with everybody, but I tell you what, I think for the most part, I didn't have to. I went in to the elementary school 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted community readers.
Awesome.
Okay. And I was walking down the hallway, and some little kid out of the blue goes, "It's the mayor!"
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm like, this kid's in 4th grade.
Sure.
And he knows who the mayor is. I walked into the thing, and the teacher said, "Do you know who that is?" Boom. More than half the class read, "That's the mayor." That means I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
I'm getting out there with the people. Okay. I listen to people. I try to react appropriately to them. Some people piss me off. Okay. And sometimes when I respond back to them, I may get a little snarky, but you can't keep kicking me. You know, you can't keep kicking a dog.
Absolutely.
Eventually I'm gonna, and I've had people privately say, "You did the right thing." But people, the one thing that people have to know is I will never ever do anything to hurt the city.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that in everything that you've done. I mean, if you look around and you really look at the broad aspect of everything that's happened since you've been in office, I mean, it's pretty damn impressive, honestly. It's you've built a team. You got everyone bought into the vision that you have for the city, and it's collaborative with the everyone else. But you built that team and brought them in, and then you made it happen. And that says a lot about the leadership that you have, and it takes a lot of energy, I'm sure, to be able to do that and effort, because you're not just sitting behind a desk all day. You're out in the community as well
Every day.
So it's
and the weekends.
Yeah, exactly. So I personally commend you, because I think you've done a great job for what we've done. I grew up in Streetsboro. I moved here in 1991. I live in Manaway now, but I still have the business here, and it says a lot. The city has changed a lot. In the last interview that we did with Bob Long, he talked about how the city had changed, and just the way it seems to have a flow and have a reason for making things happen.
Building a city, Jack.
Yeah.
And I used to hear street talkie all the time, and I hated that.
Yeah.
And you know what? You don't hear people outside the city refer to us as street talkie anymore.
No, sir. No.
And I knew we made it, Jack, when I was on 480 and I saw the sign coming out of Cleveland and it said Streetsboro and Youngstown.
Yeah, that's a pretty damn good feeling, huh? When you see it.
Yeah. I see, hell yeah.
Yeah.
When we make, because you say Ravenna.
Yeah.
And now, Streetsboro is a destination. And I says, okay, I'm liking on that.
That's
and
fantastic.
I pick up on the little things like that just means something to me. And seeing Streetsboro on that sign, that was cool as hell.
Yeah.
When I go down the turnpike and I see our banners, our Visitors Convention Bureau puts pamphlets in all of the rest areas along the turnpike, and you see Streetsboro and you see what we have, and there's at least 55 different places you can eat here.
Yeah.
We're definitely well fed.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, and there's some we're missing.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get that. But we'll get there eventually, and we're not going to stop.
Yeah.
Our housing may slow down, but we still have industrial sites, and as much as people complain about the industry is what feeds us.
Yeah. That's what brings that vision to life, right?
Like it does.
9,500 people coming into the city to work.
Well, you can't keep going out. The money tree, it's just not real.
Right.
We always say we don't make widgets, we manufacture jobs.
Yeah.
And jobs is what pays, and we have to keep bringing the jobs in, because that's what gives us the ability to expand it, what gives us the ability to repair the infrastructure, to put new roads in. We've done so many little things. We're changing all of our street lights over to LEDs to save us money.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of the little things that people don't notice. And if someone that's only lived here for 5 years, they don't know what we went through to get here.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. When you drive into town and there's two things, going on, this whole part of town is completely empty. Back when I moved in, there's Sammy's was over there. That was the first thing I remember from when I was a kid. I don't know why, but Sammy's drive through, and that was not a whole lot.
No.
outside of that. You know, you had
Well-
the little center of town with McDonald's and Burger King and
And
Taco Bell.
we were one of the first ones to have McDonald's around. I mean, McDonald's was the place. I remember when McDonald's was probably one of the most coveted jobs
Yeah.
that you could have. I mean, we used to sneak out. I went to Crestwood, and we used to sneak out of school lunchtime to go over here and go to McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know, because it did, and we had one there, and then slowly but surely, and then McDonald's saw the writing on the wall. Everybody wants to be between the square and the turnpike.
Yeah.
You know, and the area where Chick-fil-A and Aldi's is right now, for the longest time it didn't sell because the guy that owned the property wanted such a huge amount, but eventually he found someone that would pay.
Yeah.
You know, and they and to me that's one of the most coveted spots.
Oh yeah.
On the strip.
Yeah, right in the middle of, like you said, the center of the city and the turnpike and 480.
And we're working on improving traffic flow in and out of there. I mean, the light out front, we can and we will reprogram it. We're getting ready to put I had core samples drilled the other day to get the turn lane in. We're going to get a 5-head traffic light out front with a green arrow, and then we'll adjust. You know, we'll adjust the timing a little bit. Even if I don't respond to someone on Facebook, when I see something, I always look at it and I say, okay, you know what, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely.
You know?
Especially in a city. I mean, there's some government agencies that obviously you hear about it now all the time, but that take years and years and years to make one little thing happen. And to see what you've been able to do in 13 years, I mean, it's pretty impressive.
That goes with my staff and it goes with council.
Yeah.
You know, it really truly does that they've seen it. And, you know, we have a strong council form of government.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to spend up to $49.99 on my signature.
Okay.
Anything from $5,000 to $19,999, I have to go through Border Control. Anything over $20,000, I have to get approved through council.
Mm-hmm.
And council meets twice a month, the second and fourth Monday. And I do have some emergency powers, but before I invoke any emergency powers to spend money, I have to send an email to council, and then I have to have legislation for them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it takes some time to get things done, and you know, sometimes stuff has to go through 3 reads. Well, it goes through 3 reads and a 30-day referendum, so you're talking there, you know, 75 days before something gets done. But it is the way that we have to work. And you know, a lot of times when we have time, you know, to cogitate on things that we're doing, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And it gives council has given me a lot of good ideas. Of course, I think my ideas are the best.
Sure, everyone does, right?
You know, but then when I start, the one thing that I had to change about myself was to become more receptive to ideas. And I think that's probably the biggest thing of why the relationship with council is that I am receptive and I do take their ideas, and we do formulate them. You know, we do formulate them into things, and it makes a big difference. And I think one of the biggest things that we've done is improve the relationship between us and the schools.
Yeah.
Us and the schools, we get along famously.
That's great.
And
That's great.
everything about, you know, you see, look at this splash park.
Yeah.
The rocket signs and things like that. You look over on this bridge, where do we have the rockets? You look on our water tower,
Right.
we have the rockets. We have meshed and melded the schools because they're our identity.
And that's to build that community. That's just
Exactly,
from the
you
beginning.
build a community.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Broska, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your time and you know, doing this. This is fun for me to be able to do this, and we'll give back. I think it's June 16th from 5 to 8.
Okay.
We'll do 10% of the sales that we do in those times. We'll bring a check for you, and
For
for Chrissy, and we can give it for the Special
I
Olympics.
love that girl.
Yeah, it'll be awesome.
There's a girl that was dealt a hand, and she has persevered and she thrived. Her dad, Gary Moss, was a school teacher.
Yeah, he was a teacher of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, and he the way that they have taken care of Chrissy. I did the floor plunge with her a couple
Yeah.
times, but I just love her to death. You look at her, she smiles.
Yeah.
I wish that young lady only the best.
That's awesome.
And the same thing with her mom and dad. I
Yeah.
love Gary and I love Fran. They are the parents.
Yeah. Great,
You know.
great people, great family.
They are.
That's awesome, and it's such a good cause to be able to give back to.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks,
Jack.
Mr. Mayor.